Welcome to another episode of the Georgia-Florida Baseball Show. This show is brought to you by Georgia Showcase Baseball and its owner, Coach Ben House. Ben, how we doing?
Doing good, Kevin. How are you?
Man, I am good. I am your host, Kevin Perkins. And today we have Greg Frady, Renaissance man. He has coached as a head coach at North Florida Community College, Georgia State, and the German national team. He has been an assistant at Columbus State, UFC, Georgetown. He won a national title as a player, I believe, at Troy State.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Won a national title as a player at Troy State. He is currently coaching at a West Coast league where he prepares top-level West Coast collegiates for the draft and for their minor league experience. He is a motivational speaker and the greatest pickleball player this country has to offer. How did I do? Did I hit some of the high spots?
You exaggerated in a couple of them, but most of them were pretty accurate. We'll go with that, Kevin.
That's the point. Are you doing okay?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be invited to be on the show, and having so much history in baseball and in the states of Georgia and Florida. It's a natural for me to come on and talk about it. And of course, Ben and I have been friends for years and years. I've always respected his work. So yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do today is Greg's going to talk to us about his time at Georgia State, the importance of organizations like Georgia State, or if you're at a UFC or whatever, to be in the community and getting talent locally along with bringing in talent from other areas, how important places like Georgia Showcase Baseball are. And then he's going to tell us about how he's preparing these young men for their pro baseball experience. And then I hope to get him to give me some of his motivational speaking cues as well over the course of this time period. And we are going to do all of that after this.
This is the Georgia-Florida Baseball Show, brought to you by Coach Ben House with Kevin Perkins from Surrounded by Sports.
Welcome back. And thank you to our sponsor, Arden's Garden, Atlanta's source for juices, smoothies, and plant-based foods. Thank you to Showcase Apparel, the 50-year team. Like, subscribe, and comment to this video, and you will have the opportunity to win a gift from Showcase Apparel, a custom-made gift from Showcase Apparel after this show. Greg, now you and Ben got on each other's radar about when?
Well, I started at Georgia State in 2004 as an assistant coach with Coach Mike Hurst. And I had previously been at UCF down in Orlando, and then gone over and coached the German team. And then from there, I just started meeting a lot of great coaches in the Atlanta area and people that were involved in baseball. And I don't know the year, Ben, you may remember better than me. I don't know the year, but it always seems like you've been there. I can't remember when you weren't. And Ben is just an example of a guy that I worked with when I was at Georgia State in the community with a lot of different segments of people: high school coaches, travel coaches, summer league coaches, specialty coaches. And I would listen to people from the community. And we're at Georgia State. We're on the east side of Atlanta, so we played out in Panthersville. And the east side of Atlanta, in my opinion, had really never, other than Redan certainly had Redan High School, but other than the east side, there wasn't so many players coming out of there. And I thought it was such an untapped resource being over there. So I would listen to people and give me recommendations. I worked with a lot of people from Atlanta in the Black community. And that was a big starting point for me as well, because CJ Stewart was downtown, a former Georgia State guy, and he and I constantly talked. He runs the Leads program now, and I helped him. And when I was at Georgia State with camps and clinics and things for the players there, all the Redan guys like Tommy Barber, former Redan coach, Greg Goodwin, and on, and people that were there. And it continues to today. Just yesterday, I was in John Hollins and Jordan Hollins' indoor hitting facility on the east side of Atlanta. And Ben, I think you just interviewed those guys not too long ago. And they're doing great work opening up a new facility. So, I mean, there's a lot of people in the area that you go to, but you listen to some people and you establish relationships and you do the best job you can of seeing as many kids and getting those kids when you can.
Ben, how important is it to you to have olive branches like that from major institutions and for coaches to come and reach out and be willing to help in your community?
Well, it's very important because it helps with having some of the kids that come out of our programs to to go into institutions such as Georgia State or some of the institutions that's around here in Atlanta to have great relationships with. And with Coach Frady, we've had a long relationship because Georgia State, Panthersville Stadium, it's in my backyard, so it's probably 5 minutes from my house. And I would always go and take my son and watch some of the Georgia State baseball games. And I can just remember having a conversation with Frady. I think my son may have been 9 or 10 years old, and I would be outside of Panthersville Stadium playing catch with him. And he would always say, "Hey, man, one day I'm gonna recruit that kid." I don't know if you remember that or not, Coach Frady, but I still remember that.
Take him now, Ben.
Yeah. So, I learned a lot from you just going and watching you guys play and watching you coach over there on third base and kind of see how you do things. You do things the right way, and it's always been in the back of my mind that I always wanted to maybe not copycat, but use some of the things that you use while you're on the field. So you were one of my heroes, as I went through the coaching schemes of this organization.
Well, thank you, Ben. And, as a coach, you're not really going for hero. You're just going for daily, doing the best job you can do and trying to reach people. I always wanted Georgia State and Panthersville to be a very inclusive place for all people to come out there, have an opportunity to get along. I'll tell you a quick story. One year, I don't know what year, maybe 2007, 2008. I am going to watch the Gwinnett County All-Star game, the high school All-Star game, and it's going to be up at the new Pro Park there. And they have all the bells and whistles. And I remember talking to you, Ben, and I said, I'm going up to the Gwinnett. Where can I find the DeKalb County All-Star game? And you said it's going to be at one of the middle schools. And we were just having this conversation, and I was like, well, the middle school? I mean, how can that be the kids at DeKalb County playing at a middle school for their all-star game and the kids at Gwinnett playing at a pro park? So I got in contact with the AD, the sports athletic director at DeKalb, based on that conversation and said, hey, I don't know what's happened with this all-star game. I'm going to go there tomorrow. I'm sure the facility is a nice facility, but it's not something that the kids can aspire to play in. Let's get them out here at Panthersville. We'll have them in a Division I park. We don't have the best facility in the country, but we've got a facility that's nice, it's well maintained and taken care of. And from that point on, we started having the DeKalb County All-Star game when I was there. And that meant a lot to me. That kind of bled over into then the MVP showcase coming out there. And then it just gave kids a chance to be on a Division I field, gave me an opportunity to evaluate and see players. It worked for the community. It worked for me. And conversations like that, even a small, minor conversations, lead to big things.
Well, and what you're saying too, Greg, is when they get to play on that bigger stage, the bigger field, the nicer facility, it gives them something to aspire to. Having to backtrack to a middle school when you're a high school player, that's a wonderful thing that you're saying you did right there. But I do want to transfer into what you do now, because I find it fascinating. Tell the people where you are. You're in Vancouver, running a West Coast league. You're on an island, right?
Yeah. So, you got it pretty much right, Kevin. I am in the summertime still coaching baseball. I work for the Nanaimo Night Owls. Our general manager and owner, Jim Swanson, is a longtime friend of mine. My pitching coach is Gorman Highmuller. If you're an old timer, you definitely remember Gorman as a major league pitcher, lefty for the Athletics. But then later transitioned into 30 plus years major league pitching coordinator with the Phillies and the Padres, and he's a fantastic person, a great coach. And then I've got a couple of other young coaches. Sean Fitzgerald's on my staff, and we have a great staff. Have a lot of fun with the kids. So the league is 16 teams, and it's on the West Coast, in the state of Oregon, the state of Washington, and British Columbia. And then we've got a team over in Edmonton, Canada, too, which was a fantastic organization. The last time we were there for Canada Day, we had 10,000 people at the game. Tremendous draw. It's the old Blue Jays AAA park. So a lot of professionals have played in that park. But we're playing in a 16-team league. It's a league similar to leagues that we know on the East Coast, like the Cape New England Collegiate League, but it's a West Coast league, and it's on Vancouver Island. So if you were in Vancouver, you'd have to take a ferry or a plane flight over to the island, and it's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. I enjoy the team, the kids. We're having a wonderful time. It's just a great place to continue to coach baseball. I have players on the team from all over the country, but emphasis on the West Coast side.
Right. Now, the purpose of the league is to get these kids prepared for the draft and get these kids prepared for minor league baseball, right? So
it is. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is. That is the purpose of the league. But it's about development, and we talk about a lot about how to conduct yourself as a professional. Things you value, like maybe some young guys would take for granted, like being on time, wearing the appropriate issued gear, conducting yourself and how you handle umpires in the game, things like hustling on and off the field. We talk about going to sleep, even though that seems ridiculous. How can you coach a guy to go to sleep? But when you're a young guy, it's easy to stay up late. Then you've got your responsibilities maybe early somewhere, and you shortcut sleep, and then your performance starts going downhill, and you're not sure why or what's happening. But learning how to manage yourself, time management, going to sleep, what they eat, making good choices about what they drink on and off the field. All these things take place. And think about it being in the summer. They're quite a ways away from home, most of these kids. So they have their first real travel, learning, living a team experience where they just basically they're just with the team, and the teams tell them what to do. When you get to pro ball, you get drafted. Let's say you're drafted by the Cincinnati Reds. You don't pick where you go. You don't pick who your coaches are. You don't pick if you're promoted or demoted. The only thing you can do is worry about what you can do and control your controllables the day of and what you're doing. If you can manage yourself in a big league way, like time management and sleep and the things we just talked about, you'll give yourself a better chance to be consistent over time. And the way the game is evolving with huge bodies, gigantic physical specimen of bodies, and athletic ability off the charts from years past, finding an advantage is harder and harder because everybody is doing the things that you're doing. And so you got to be really dedicated, committed in a disciplined way. And it's our job as coaches to help guys do that. We really don't break down swings or break down mechanics of pitching. We really talk to the players a lot about how to manage themselves and how to be a professional. And then the last piece of that is when they do go back to their college, if they're not drafted, is to raise the bar and to take team lead and to be a leader within the organization, not just show up and say, hey, I played summer ball, but use summer ball to really advance themselves in the way of being a leader in their college team and move themselves into the picture of a possible draft.
A couple things we talked about in a previous conversation, Greg. You said that when the players are erring, you have matter-of-fact conversations with them. It's not yelling. It's not because they need to naturally react to these things in a certain way for you to evaluate them because they have to be adults to make it.
So I'll give you an example, Kevin. You and I kind of had a bit of a conversation about this. So I'm not at all concerned about discipline on the team. I'm really not. I'm not concerned about kids wanting to play. If you are leaving home and going that far to play, you want to play. So that's not an issue. Everybody wants to play. My issue is making sure they develop. And development, a lot of time we think about development of improving arm strength or maybe getting in the weight room and getting stronger. But development also takes place in makeup and how a kid wants to play. I mean, one of the things that we focus on this summer is it's summer baseball. We never lose sight of that. And we're not going to compromise a guy's opportunity to play. For instance, we put a pitcher out on the mound and he struggles and walks the bases loaded. There will sometimes be a situation where other teams may take that guy out because he's walked the bases loaded, and it may compromise the ability for the team to win. But in summer baseball, you need to allow that young guy an opportunity to work through something to develop some confidence. So that's one way to get confidence. Another way to get confidence is get to the field on time, in the right gear, and talk to your teammates and let everybody know what's going on. And then there's going to be that occasional time where a young guy will show up and not have the right shorts on or the right shirt on. And I had that situation last summer. I called a young guy over and said, "Hey, buddy, how you doing today?" "Great, coach. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm ready to go. I'm excited to play tonight." And I said to him, "I'm also excited to watch you play tonight. And I want you to play the best that you possibly can play. And I want you to get better. I'm really happy you've prepared for that. But right now, let's talk about where are your shorts that we're getting ready to take batting practice in because you don't have the right stuff on." And he said, "Yeah, I forgot those." And I said, "Well, did you forget them at home? I mean, how did that work? You know, we take care of some laundry for you. Did you just not turn them in? Did you take them home to wash them? Did you forget them? How did that work?" He goes, "Yeah, I didn't wash them and they were dirty and I just decided to wear these." And I said, "Okay, no problem. For me, I'm not going to be mad at you at all. But let me tell you how it works in pro ball. When you wear the wrong stuff, you're going to get fined. So let's say you get 4 fines in a month and the fine is $5 a fine. That's $100 out of your pretty small paycheck in minor league baseball. And unless you're just a rich young man, you're going to feel it and it's going to be affected. And what your parents want to see you be is independent, make good decisions. And your dad considers you to be a man when you financially get as independent as you possibly can be. Now, having to call your dad and say, "Hey, Dad, can you send me money because I didn't have the time nor the discipline to wash my clothes. And my coach now is agitated at me because I wore the wrong stuff and I've just got fined from the organization. Now the organization is wondering why I can't do the right thing." Those are issues that can't be as you go up the ladder. And you can learn about this right now in summer baseball and not repeat that, or you can let that be a problem and it wind up costing you, because at the end, talent trumps everything. If a guy's talented and he can't keep up with his stuff, they'll hire people to help him keep up with his stuff. But when you start coming back down the ladder of talent, you're going to have to start being really good at what you do and managing yourself. And we're trying to help these young guys understand that. And that's a big part of baseball, helping them get ready to be a professional, not just on the field, but off the field as well.
Now, Ben, in your minor league experience, does all this sound familiar to you?
Yeah, all of that is still the same. In my organization, those conversations are with the parents instead of the kids. So yeah, I understand everything that Coach Frady is talking about. But it was the same thing when I was playing minor league baseball. And at times, you have kangaroo court as to when your teammates will find you. So being responsible and becoming an adult when you're not ready at sometime 18, 19 years old, it becomes a job, because now you have to grow up because you're not at home anymore.
Right.
You're not at home. You can't you can't depend on your mom and dad to do things for you. You have to do them on your own.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do. Is the overall vision, the overall goal of all these things we do with young people is to have them be productive in every aspect so that they can excel, whether they make it to Truist Field or wherever, or whether they don't and wind up doing what you guys are doing or what I do. We want you to excel in life, and that's why we're all here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Kevin, quick story. When I was at Georgia State, our first big leaguer at Georgia State was David Buchanan. Dave was really a strong arm pitcher, drafted by the Phillies, and got to minor league baseball. So he goes out to minor league baseball and plays. He comes back and sitting in my office, and we're talking about kind of reviewing how it went for him and what he learned and what he picked up on. And then I had him talk to the team. And I said, David, tell me something that really mattered to you about minor league baseball that we helped you get prepared for, that you may or may not, that we may not be thinking about. And he said, okay, here it is. He said, there's a lot of baseball stuff, but the first road trip we had, I got on the bus in a collared polo shirt with a belt and some nice pants on, and sit down. And the coach, when I got on the bus, the coach said, good job, David. He said, I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. I thought they were talking about good job on the field. He said, but several of my minor league colleagues got fined for having T-shirts on and not the right thing on. And he said, all I could think about was we never traveled anywhere at Georgia State unless we were dressed appropriately, because I always had collared shirts with the logo on it. We traveled in some nice pants and they had nice shoes on. So they represented themselves as a professional to the airport and representing the university. So he said, I didn't get fined because it was my background of what I thought everybody did, but I found out that, hey, that was a good preparation. So, that made me feel good as a coach. Anytime a young guy learns something in your program and goes out and has success with it, it gives you kind of energy to keep on keeping on to continue to teach.
100%. We're going to take a quick break, get in a commercial, going to come back, and I want to get you to give us a little bit of motivational speaking, if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit about leadership and some of those things you do in that other job. Is that cool?
Oh, that's great.
All right. We are back. Thank you to our sponsors, Arden's Garden, Atlanta's source for juices, smoothies, plant-based foods. Thank you to Showcase Apparel, of course, and its owner, Ben House, the fit for your team. Again, like, subscribe, comment. If you comment, you have the opportunity to win a gift every week for each show every week for a custom shirt that you and Ben work out that he makes for you. Now, back to the show. Coach Frady, the motivational aspects of speaking that you do, would you mind just giving us like how you got into that, and then we'll get into some more of it after that.
Well, I think you get into motivational speaking if you're a coach. Ben, how many motivational speeches have you given in your coaching career? Oh my Lord.
Well, I can't count them all.
I know you do. Well, the reality is you do it every day. Some are a little more major, some are a little bit more daily stuff, but really motivational speaking, it comes down to people having a need and seeing an energy or a message that you can deliver to the people around them that can help inspire or motivate, and maybe inspire and motivate to help as a pick-me-up. I always believed in bringing in a lot of players or different types of people to speak to our team, and I took a lot of pride in that, particularly a lot of former players. And I had some really good guys come in and speak at Georgia State when I was there in the community. And so I learned a lot listening to people talk. And then later, as I was in different shows or talks, I would be asked to speak at different businesses for a luncheon or whatever. And then my name kind of got out there a little bit, like I think a lot of coaches do. It's just a natural thing for a coach to be able to speak in front of a group. And the things I think we take a bit for granted with the ability to speak in front of groups of people, other people struggle with that. So everybody has something that they do well. I felt like always when I was asked to go do a clinic and speak on behalf of my coaching colleagues, I wanted to be prepared. Probably my greatest ask, I have two greatest asks about being a professional speaker and public speaking. Number one, in my profession, baseball, I was asked to be the kickoff lead speaker for the ABCA convention in the year 2020. And one of my former players is Colonel Brett Blaylock, who led several missions and tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. And he's a special guy. You talk about a leader. So what we did was the ABC asked me to speak, and I said, hey, let me incorporate one of my former players who's in the Army, and let's talk about how the Army does it versus how we as baseball coaches do it, and let's learn from each other. And it was very successful, and it was such a great thing for me. I was speaking and was so honored to be asked to do that. But I was sharing a stage with one of my former players, and I was promoting a player. I mean, that's the pinnacle of it for me. That was awesome for me, and I really loved that and enjoyed that. But then later, I was asked by the United States Army to come speak to the Fort Benning 100-year celebration, base celebration of leadership, and they asked several people to come in. And now I came in and spoke to about 500 officers from just out of college all the way up to the general. I remember getting the letter from General Brito at the time, a one-star general who was on the base at Fort Benning, asking me to come speak. And I had served in some groups because I was taking the Georgia State team down to Fort Benning, and we were training with the Rangers down there. And it was awesome for my players to see what other guys their age are doing. And we talk about it's hard work, and we put a lot into it at Georgia State as Division I players. But I wanted them to know that other young men their age are preparing for war. They're laying their lives on the line. And what we do is not really that hard when you push back. It's hard work, but it's not hard because those guys are doing it. So our players enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed it. So as we're doing that, I got to know some of the officers on the base, and we shared some ideas. And so they asked me to come in and speak to the officers there. And I spoke, I had a 40-minute speech and took 45 minutes of questions. And it was a fantastic day, probably, the best ask. But I've spoken all over the world, and I find that what everybody, no matter what group I'm speaking to or what I'm doing, everybody wants the same thing. They want to energize their people. They want a certain message delivered. They want to be seen as someone who helps develop their people. And everybody wants to have fun. They want to have enjoyment. And, I think you can gauge if your message is going good by how people react to you. And I constantly gauge that. Are they laughing some? Are they getting some serious information some? Are they learning some? Are they engaged some? And that's really how I've done that. And so I'm retired as a Division I everyday full-time baseball coach. But I still am asked to speak pretty regularly, and I do different things for different people. So when people ask me and call me up, I say, what is the message you want delivered? I'll tailor my speech around that. Okay. How many people are going to be there? And what is the focus? Is it a change in a corporation? Are you rolling out a new sales campaign? What are we doing? And I'll tie that into how we've done things, and I've done things in the past, and go from there. And it seems to be working fine, and I enjoy it. Mostly, I don't look at it as me telling anybody what to do. I more look at it as just sharing ideas and experiences from other people around the world that gives them some food for thought, and maybe they can take something from that to be better at what they're doing.
An advisory capacity. Okay, why don't you do me this favor if you don't mind? We talked a little bit about. Just a little bit about your philosophies on leadership. And I think if anybody's been watching this show, they'll get that tempo is a part of your philosophy on everything. So did you want to dive into your philosophies on leadership just a little bit?
Well, I think everybody has leadership capabilities. Ben, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too, because I really do think everybody has leadership capabilities, but not everybody can be the leader. But everybody can do something. And I say to someone who's very passive, very quiet, meek at the very beginning, particularly like, let's take a freshman who's coming in. It's very much an eye-opening experience. My philosophy on that is you can find a way to be a leader. How can you be a leader? Well, you can show up early and be on time. You can do everything that you're asked to do. You can stay late. You can put in extra work. You can take care of your responsibilities asked of you, like your academic situation. You can support your teammates and give them a good word. You can work on your level of communication. You can work on your level of work ethic and learn how to work effectively, not just hard, but results. Because our world is a results-oriented society. I mean, I feel like everybody works hard, but everybody's idea and interpretation of hard work is different from other people's. So I help them say, hey, this is your course. Now you implement that. So my philosophy in leadership is to teach people and empower them how to find the right words to say, the right actions to say, and then get them actively doing those things. Because I've had so many people sit in my office as a player and say, I want to be a great leader, but I don't know how. Can we talk about how? And leadership empowerment to me is giving people the tools and some ammunition and some food for thought so that they can implement that and then put that to practicality.
Ben, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, I think, with me, leadership starts with, doing things consistent, even when things aren't consistent. When you're struggling, when things aren't going your way, you still have to do your day-to-day things. Just like Coach Frady was saying, come in, get your ground balls, get your work in on the mound if you're struggling, getting your ABs in if you're struggling at the plate. So when things aren't going consistent with you, you still have to continue to do the things that's necessary for you to be better baseball player. So, and that's even in life with me. When things aren't going right with me, I have to consistently do the right things in order to get things back on the right track. So I deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So I think people look at you as a leader when you're able and when you're capable of doing those type of things. When you're able to continue when things aren't going right, but you're consistently being who you are. So yeah.
Yeah, you're the eye of the storm.
Yeah, Ben, I want to make a comment about that. It's easy to be the leader when everything's going well. Yeah, but it's the real leaders that are able to still encourage and help and set the pace for others when things aren't going well for them. And I've always believed that you as the leader. I want to tell a quick story about leadership. Nick Wilston, who was one of my former players at Georgia State. And Ben, I think you've had Nick even on your show and interviewed Nick.
Coach Allen?
Nick is currently the hitting. He's with the Colorado Rockies organization, and he's the hitting director for minor league baseball with the Rockies. And it's been so awesome to watch Nick come up. But Nick has leadership skills popping all over him in every way. And I've always challenged him. And I think I've even made him mad a couple of times. I've challenged him so hard to be a good leader because I think Nick is a leader for all people, all people. He has such leadership skills. He comes from a great family. His dad, of course, was a basketball coach at Georgia State, Carter Wilson, and then wound up being the basketball coach AD at Decatur High School. And Nick comes from a great family. His mom is great. His grandmother is great. It's just a great family. So I always pressured Nick about leadership, and I always asked him to find new ways. And he was very receptive and wanted to learn. So one day we're playing South Alabama at Panthersville. It's on a Saturday morning, and the sports information director came down and said, "Hey, I need you. You need to know. You need to call your family right now." And I knew there was a situation. So I called my family, and my father had died. It wasn't a total surprise. He'd had cancer, but it's always a surprise when your parents die. It doesn't matter how prepared you are. It's a shock. And into some way, I went into like a shock mode. And I was able to finish that game that day, and we played fine. But when the game was over, I needed to have the right words to say to the team, but I didn't feel like I did have the right words to say to the team. And I felt like I was fumbling. My message was we needed to show up tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm going to be here tomorrow to be your leader in person. I need to take care of my family situation. And I talked briefly about the importance of that game and the standings and what that meant for us to compete in the conference and how important it was. And we can't get distracted because I have a distraction. And I felt like I was fumbling around. And Nick Wilson stepped in, and he put his arm around me. And if you know Nick, he's a big boy now. I mean, he's a big guy. He swallowed me up. And he said, "Coach, don't worry one more second about this. We got this. And if any of you guys better show up tomorrow ready to go, because this is a must-win situation." And he had some words to say about that. I had never been in a position where I was so unprepared to say the right thing or even have the right words to say, and have someone step in particularly as Nick as a player to do that for me was incredible. And of course, I'm proud of Nick. And Nick and I have our own conversations now from time to time. I continue to challenge him, and he challenges me every time we talk to be a better man, a better person, a better coach, and just do what's right. And I think that's what leadership is, as you grow with people and you respect them like I respect you, Ben, and what you've been able to do. And that's why I want to be on this show. You've shown leadership. You've shown consistency. You've shown long-term staying power. Those are things that we respect each other as coaches, not just to get the games that you win or lose on the field. And leadership's huge. It starts with always for me, people around me and what I give, and then what I'm able to take from others.
Greg, thank you so much for sharing that story. That was incredible. I had a little bit of a glitch there. I've got us back on track. Ben, you had a relationship with the young man Greg was talking about?
Yeah, Nick Wilston. I started coaching Nick when he was, I think, in the 6th grade over at Renfro Middle School. His dad, Carter Wilston, hired me to coach the middle school team. And I coached Nick all through middle school and a brief stint of his high school career. But me and Nick continued to have a relationship all throughout high school. And some of the, as well as Coach Frady, I would always mention players throughout Atlanta. And Nick was one of the kids that I mentioned to Coach Frady when he was a senior at Decatur. And from there, Coach Frady followed Nick, and Nick went on to be an All-American at Georgia State.
Right. You were saying he set records, right, Greg?
Yeah, and so Nick he's still in some home run records at Georgia State and was an All-American and just a tremendous player. Quick story about Nick, I'll tell it to you. He was really struggling between years while he was at Georgia State. And I said to him, I don't think you're seeing the ball well. I want you to go to an eye doctor, and I want you to really get an evaluation. And they determined he was not seeing. They got him a prescription, and the next year he was All-American. This guy had plenty of talent but couldn't see the ball clearly, and just certain little things like that can just be such a difference to a player.
Right, absolutely. Now, you also had mentioned, you coached Carlos Cordova at the same school. Is that right, Ben?
Yeah, Carlos was another kid, was a Decatur kid that went over to Georgia State with Coach Frady as well.
Right, and you had some time with him, Greg. He's a tremendous young man. We had him weeks ago.
I loved him when he was at Georgia State. I still love him now as a coach. He is absolutely a great coach. He is totally committed, great person, a great influence, tremendous knowledge. Listen, Carlos went to the Dominican Republic at the Texas Rangers Academy, and he grinded for years. I mean, that's a no joke situation. Everybody thinks you want to coach until you go coach and grind it out 7 days a week, 12 plus hours a day. It's tough. And he did that, and he has emerged as one of the Rangers' top organizational coaches. I'm very proud of him. But I was saying earlier that he comes from a wonderful family. Father, mother, just tremendous. His younger brother was a heck of a player. Just a great story. And those are Decatur guys. There's a lot of guys. I'm most proud of the body of work I put together in my coaching life, but I'm more proud of the people I got an opportunity to coach.
Right. It's about the relationships you build and seeing people progress and become, the maximum of what they can be inside of these organizations, along with the maximum that you can be inside of your family and your friendships and all that other stuff. And that's great, man. Thank you so much for your time, Greg. Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate you, brother. And we're going to wrap this now. Hang around for a couple of seconds. I'll tell you how to win a shirt after you like, subscribe, and comment on this episode. And thank you to Arden's Garden for sponsoring the show. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back. I'm Kevin Perkins, the Florida part of the Georgia-Florida Baseball Podcast. This episode's t-shirt giveaway winner is Trevor Pace. Trevor, congrats, and reach out to 678-469-5994. That's it. Call us at 678-469-5994. Or email at showcasebaseball.georgia@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Greg Frady, for the wonderful work you do. Thank you, Ben, for always putting this stuff on. And remember, like, subscribe, comment to win, but also to be a part of Showcase Baseball. We appreciate you, and take care.